5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
How about we do it again?
6, 7, 4, 3, 2, 1. I think I farted.
Okay, let's try one more
I
time.
definitely didn't.
Ready?
Ranking review. Ranking review. Ranking review.
Say 6,
6,
5,
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Hello and welcome to another fun-filled edition of Rank and Review. This episode, we're going to be discussing filmmaker Tim Burton. And one of the 6 films we're going to be discussing is Frankenweenie, which is kind of apropos because this podcast is kind of a Frankenstein's monster. Originally, there was going to be one guest for this podcast, but circumstances dictated that changes had to be made. The podcast was not completed and fully recorded, and I was not able to close that deal. So I've had other people come in to help me finish the reviews. So your host and random Canadian Larry Parsons and many special guests who I will introduce to you as we go forward we're going to talk about Tim Burton, and it's a series of reviews recorded over many, many months. Originally, this episode was going to be a season ender for season 10, but here we are ending season 11 with it. So, what do you guys think about Tim Burton? Let me know. What do you guys think of the podcast? Let me know. You could send your feedback to ranknreview@gmail.com. That's ranknreview@gmail.com. You can find the website at ranknreview.ca, and I also have a presence on YouTube. And being on there for like 8-9 months now, I have like 20 subscribers, and I am getting like tens of views on some of those podcasts and isolated reviews. So, if you wanted to throw a comment or a like or listen to an isolated review or give me your rank under one of the podcast episodes, not only would that, help the YouTube algorithms, but it would help me. It would be good for morale. It would know that there are people out there. But, I've been doing this for so long, I'm going to keep doing it. Every other Wednesday, Rank and Review is there for his dozens of subscribers. Moving forward, new guest Sean Lawrence will be joining me to discuss a movie called The Big Fish. Regular Rank and Review contributor Mr. Lee Beckman and his lovely daughter, my lovely goddaughter, Maya Beckman, are going to be here to help me discuss Alice in Wonderland. Regular Rank and Review contributor Chris Tomich is going to help me talk about Frankenweenie and Sleepy Hollow. And a mysterious mystery guest who shall not be named, lest her secret love of Tim Burton be wrought upon the world. This mysterious person will help me to review Edward Scissorhands and Batman. Let's do this, Rank and Review listeners. Let's do it. It's been a really long time since we've done a Rank and Review, and I'm so happy that you're here. And I think that we picked a good subject in Mr. Tim Burton. Right around the time I started getting into movies was right around the time that Tim Burton sort of started lighting up as far as Hollywood. I was never really into Pee-wee's Big Adventure, believe it or not, or the Pee Wee Herman TV show, I mean. But my childhood friends, Scott and Karen, they were obsessed with the movie Pee-wee's Big Adventure, so I was basically conditioned into that. And for all of its madness and for all of its Pee Wee Herman-ness, there was definitely some real style to that movie. And whether consciously or not, I picked Pee-wee's Big Adventure would have been my introduction to him, but the thing that introduced him to the world is going to be one of the movies we talk about, would be Batman. And after Batman, it was like, what's Tim Burton going to do next? Tim Burton, the new young, hot Hollywood thing. And through the 90s and onwards, I always tracked his career. There was a time when I considered myself a big fan, and then there was a period there where I was like wrestling with it. And now I'm sort of arrived at this place where I'm a wannabe Tim Burton fan. Like, I go into every Tim Burton movie hoping it's going to be one of the great ones. So I'm going to, I guess, open with you. Is like, how do you feel about Tim Burton? And do you agree with me that there's good Tim Burton and bad Tim Burton? And what's the difference?
Pro Tim Burton and yes and end podcast. I think we covered it.
All right. Well, thanks for coming down.
Yeah, I grew up on it too. It's kind of funny. A lot of, I guess, what I would consider my style, even just as a human being, how I live my life, is very influenced by Tim Burton. Like, seeing Batman as a kid blew my socks off. It has embedded itself in me.
Yeah. Well, Michael Keaton is my Batman.
Absolutely, and Kevin Conroy, but we're talking live action.
Right.
But it's just kind of funny that every time something about him happens or whatever, people just be like, but you know about that, right? Because you're clearly a Tim Burton fan. I don't know what it is, but apparently it just seeps out of me.
We can tell.
Yeah, but like, met you for the first time. Ooh.
Tim Burton fan.
Tim Burton fan, huh?
Totally.
Yeah, I could tell. But yeah, Batman was a big one. And that year, I was actually living with my dad, and it was one of the things that he would actually do with me is movies, which was kind of cool. And cool action movies. Never mind, you know? And I remember, like, the promos and stuff for it, and it was just such a big commercial thing, and you would hear about it on TV, and people would be like, by this new up-and-coming director, this really weird, lanky guy, you know, like, and you'd see him, and he just looked strange, and you could just tell that he had a strange mind, and his world building is absolutely fantastic, and I think that that's sort of what drew me, and, like, you know, the Burton world. Yeah. And that links through so many of his pieces, right? I mean, we were talking about the Tim Burton look, the Tim Burton stripes, like the Tim Burton music. You know immediately what I'm talking about.
Absolutely.
Without having to explain. So.
One of my very favorite Tim Burton movies is Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice, yes.
Yeah, he didn't write that movie, but he brought a lot of his style to it. Mm-hmm. So much so that I wonder if a different director had made Beetlejuice, what the movie would have ended up looking or feeling like. Because that, although it's not his script, it's not his story, it's very much a Tim Burton feel, a vibe of a movie. And I think the difference between the movies that work for me and the movies that don't are how well his vibe works with what he's doing. An infamous debacle of his that I won't defend and most people won't will be his remake of Planet of the Apes.
Oh my god.
I mean, he was good at bringing the apes to life and making the apes look interesting and cool, and there was some good acting in it.
Again, there was that element of otherworldly.
And he's always going to have the production design. He always brings the big budget to make it look as good as possible. Mm-hmm. But at the end of the day, the vibe of Tim Burton did not mesh with the vibe of Planet of the Apes. And plus centrally casting Mark Wahlberg, the movie just didn't work. And it didn't work right away, and it didn't work for the whole running time, right? So it's tough. But I am going to say, when he does connect, when he does find the product that absolutely marries well with Tim Burton, he knocks it the fuck out of the park for me. And I will sit through a Planet of the Apes if I will be able to get to a Sleepy Hollow or something that does work for me. So, but I always cheer for Tim Burton. There was a while there where I was getting impatient, where I was getting like, this was supposed to be the guy who was going to save Hollywood. Come on, try harder, right? But he's made over 40 films, and I would argue that the worst of them are still interesting conversation pieces. His failures are interesting failures.
That's true, and it is kind of funny. there are a lot of people when it comes to film and stuff that really pride themselves on being a whoever stan. And the bad ones are just misunderstood. They're cult classics, and their day will come. But Tim Burton fans are like, oh no, he produces absolute shit.
Oh,
sometimes.
absolutely. Yeah.
There's just like a realness or an understanding of it that...
I think you should just come home with me.
Joyce, I just saw this strange guy driving with Peg.
Did you get a good look at it?
Hi! Scissors.
Whoa! Heck of a handshake you got there, Ed.
Kim, this is Edward, who's gonna live with us.
Well, this must be quite a change for you, right, Ed?
Those things are cool.
Can I bring him to show and tell on Monday?
He's a highly imaginative character. It seems clear that his awareness of what we call reality is radically underdeveloped.
Eddie, you take my very breath away. Do you have a girlfriend?
Is there some special lady in your life?
Doctor, he skewered Kim.
Just a scratch. The power of Satan is in him. I can feel it.
Drop your weapon!
All along, I felt in my gut there was something wrong with him.
From Tim Burton comes the most incredible tale of a most unusual character. Edward Scissorhands.
So Edward Scissorhands, of the movies that we're talking about, I think maybe probably is number one. Second would be Frankenweenie, but this feels like the most completely personal Tim Burton joint. He wrote it, it's his story, it's his design. He got to finally work with Vincent Price, who he's been worshipping as, like, for his entire life. He did a short film called Vincent, about a little boy who's obsessed with Vincent Price, which I'm pretty sure was just about himself. And it was one of the last things that Vincent Price did, and it's kind of sweet to see him in the movie. And
his last scene was the death scene where he dies of heart failure.
Oh yeah? That was the last thing he ever shot?
It was
very
parallel, yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to start with the things that I love about Edward Scissorhands, which is quite a bit.
Alright, thumbs up emoji.
Okay. Stylistically, the portrayal of suburbia, the colors, the houses, the aesthetic,
They had to
lawns.
go and get permission.
Yeah.
And some of the people liked the color of the houses so much, they kept their houses those colors. Like, it was yes, absolutely.
Every house very distinct in its choice of color, very distinct in its choice of lawn, and every house next to itself has its own personality, but very much belongs to this specific environment, this specific suburban neighborhood. Except for, of course, the gothic Tim Burton house in the center of the town, which is where Edward Scissorhands lives.
I want to go to there.
Kathy Baker, Diane Wiest, Alan Arkin, love.
I forgot Alan Arkin was in it. And when I saw him, I got like
Diane Wiest and Alan Arkin. I want them to be my parents. I love my
Diane
parents.
Wiest is always a godsend.
Ever since I saw her as the mom in The Lost Boys,
Yep.
I just fucking loved that actress.
Oh, yeah.
Everything she did, I just love her.
She's in Practical Magic, and
That's
it's her and
right.
Stalker Channing, and they just give like the slightest of glances, and I'm like, my heart melts.
Yeah, I love her. I love them.
I would die for her. Yeah.
I love the whole aesthetic. Like, it feels like they're making fun of suburbia, but at the same time, there's some strange affectionate thing to. There's an essential sweetness to the neighborhood until it turns sour.
There's leaning into nostalgia for sure, especially with like the Christmas themes and stuff, which you do even see in like his Nightmare Before Christmas.
Right.
It looks so absurd to Jack, he doesn't understand, but it's warm and hearty.
Yeah.
And his suburbia, even though like it turns toxic, like you said, and very dark underbelly, there's just so many sweet moments on top of it. Specifically how Diane Wiest, as a mother, takes care of her home.
Yeah, she takes him in
care
like
of
a
her
puppy
family.
that she's
Yeah.
found on the corner.
Oh my god, yeah. That...
So I love all of that. The operatic scale and sort of the cry now over sentimentality of the third act has always hurt my teeth. Like, always hurt my teeth. It is, I think, overly sentimental to the point of saccharine by the time we get to the third act. But I respect the movie. I like the movie, and I like how Tim Burton it is. It is a pure-blooded Tim Burton movie. but it has never been my favorite.
Tim Burton and pastels, it just felt a little off.
That said, you know, if you want a date movie, or if you're looking for like
a date movie, we never got together, and now I'm ugly. The end. Oh yes, beautiful.
This is a very romantic film, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
and whether or not we missed our window, this would be a good movie to see on a date, I think. And it's one of those. He continued his relationship with Winona Ryder and established his relationship with Johnny Depp. And I don't know. It's a tough one for me. I'm almost right down the middle. Stylistically, aesthetically, the cast I love. The script and the sentimentality wear me down.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of in the middle about it. You can't hate Edward Scissorhands, but I find it hard to love Edward Scissorhands. But I'm absolutely willing to hear a second opinion.
That's my rebuttal. What I really loved about it was, again, the world building. Amazing. Vincent Price, a god in my eyes. And you could just sense he was having fun in this role, which was really beautiful, because it was, I think, actually his last role ever.
Man.
And, like, his last scene being a death scene. And then he died. Like not on set. He didn't die immediately.
He didn't die right then. And cut.
And then, you know what? Thank God we got it. No, it was just beautiful and so sad because, you know, he was clearly so lonely and built Edward because he didn't have a wife and kids, and but he was just so in his head of creating his own magical world. There are definitely parallels with Tim Burton there. First time he worked with Johnny Depp, and it was just such a nail on the head. Like, it was, they realized how well they worked together. Like, Tim kind of found his muse.
Yeah.
If I'm allowed to call him Tim. And then, yeah, the Winona Ryder thing, I always remember what took me out of it was her blonde hair.
Right.
It is so visually awkward and it's just like...
And is that because we know what she looks like, or does she was just not meant to have blonde hair?
It was just so awkward, and it was long and flowy, and I mean, I'm also thinking Christina Ricci and Sleepy Hollow, you know, he likes his waifish Victorian looks and pale and tragic.
At the risk of sounding cynical, I think that she was made to look like this beautiful princess doll because Edward Scissorhands would see that and instantly fall in love with her, right? Because beauty and this sort of perfect aesthetic, you know, fairy tale. So there's lots of reasons for Edward to fall in love with her. There are no reasons for her to fall in love with him.
He was so sweet. Dropped the little dog's fur so that he could see. So help her. Yeah, just the childlike wonder came across so clearly, but then when the kind of romance between them started, I'm like, he's like, what, 6? Like, mentally, like, that was awkward.
He's also apparently eternal.
Yes, that as well.
We don't know how long he's been up there, but, like, he's always been this little child. And again, you don't want to ask hard questions to break the movie, but would having no hands be a better alternative to having these weapons? Like, these dangerous...
I mean, that's a logical question for the inventor. For the story, no. Yeah. The scissors are better. And one thing that that actually bothered me on the rewatch was just how much he was taking advantage of. Like, and I get that, like, when I was a kid and saw it and stuff like that, like, yeah, they really... He should be getting paid for that. Like, he should... And then just how he's taking advantage of... Actually, the interesting twist that I really sort of glommed onto this time was a female sexual predator.
Uh-huh.
Like, that was... It was awkward, and you get the whole, cougar, whatever. And I was like, no, she's like...
Kathy Baker, there's this
doing
scene,
things.
There's this scene where she gets her hair cut. And
it's orgasmic.
It absolutely floods her basement. Like, it's completely horrifying. I remember being made quite uncomfortable about it as a kid. I do think she's really good in the movie, though. I think she's an underrated actress, and it would be a tricky role to approach. Like,
it was. I was just watching it and being like, oh no, baby boy, run to safety. And also Anthony Michael Hall as an asshole jock, like.
And he'd made his career playing variations of the kid he played in The Breakfast Club.
I didn't know who he was I think the first time I saw it, my sister, who I was watching it with, had to tell me. She was like, "It's that kid from the Breakfast Club."
That's Brian
And I was
from the
like,
Breakfast Club.
I was like, no, it isn't. It's like an older, more asshole-y version. And
16
she was like,
Candles, Weird Science. He's always the dork getting beat up by the jocks. And now
so I think that's part of why he leaned into this role so awkwardly hard. Is he finally got to be the character?
But I think it did chip a little bit away at his credibility. By the time Anthony Michael Hall got to Halloween Kills, I could believe him as an asshole bully. In this movie, I was still like, it's almost 2 against type. Like, I just see this wimp. I don't believe...
I think that's why he took it.
Yeah.
I get to level up, I get to show, and I get to, like, lean into my, you're a dork, and because it was always yelled at him, so maybe a little rage.
No part of me believed he would win in a fight with Edward Scissorhands, and surprise, surprise, he does not. Right?
To be fair, he lost a fight with gravity.
That's right.
So,
and a blade in the chest.
But yeah, that took me out of the movie almost as much as Winona's blonde hair.
Right.
Diane Wiest was most of the movie for me. Her genuine sensitivity.
Her and her husband are my favorite.
Oh my god. I want to have a barbecue in their yard. And just like, she was just constantly so peppy and perky. And like that, I always wanted to have a reason to talk to her, and now I do. Thank you, Edward. Like she like looked at him as someone who gave just as much as
and what was it? She was selling the makeup.
Avon.
Avon. She's an Avon lady, which is just fucking perfect, right?
Well, the fact that she wasn't doing well.
Yeah.
And then all this stuff happens, and like just by her giving a chance, like on Edward taking a chance on him. Just so much thrive. Like, that was so interesting on how, the fish out of water, but he wasn't just a fish out of water. Them dealing with something new brought out a lot of good in a lot of people, which I thought was, and then eventually just the worst.
Well, and that's the thing. What do you feel about the turn? Because they go from loving and embracing Edward to chasing him back up the hill.
Oh, for sure. Like, it's literally a mob. It's like based on Victor.
And I understand it's a fairy tale, and we kind of work in broad strokes here, and the artificiality of the suburbs is supposed to lean into that. But I felt like I was allowed to love them so much that it was hard for me to deal with that turn.
I actually, again, watching it as an adult and actually paying attention for the first time in years, what it hit me was when he shows up, he's an outcast, he's weird, but because, like, the mom has such sympathy towards him, he's really seen as this pitiful creature, which encourages sympathy. And then, oh, look, he's useful! Oh my god, he's so useful! Let's use him! And then they take advantage of him, and when they realize that he is a danger, it's the venom of mob mentality, and I went from pitying this creature, first scared from, pitying, back to scared. And that is very human, and that was very believable, and that was very understandable. So when they did quickly switch to that mob mentality and chased him away, well, he did stir up a lot of things.
Yeah.
And now we have to deal with the repercussions of that. Oh, we have a chance to other him again, and he's the bad guy? Yeah, absolutely.
It's not about
That's
us.
human nature. That's absolutely human nature.
It's not us, it was him. It was always him.
That's it. Yeah. So let's get rid of him.
Yeah.
We were really good people to take him in and try and take a chance on him, even though...
But he abused our trust.
And so, good, you stay up that mountain. Because by the end of the movie, Winona Ryder's very old.
Yeah.
And no one's gone up to check on him.
And he's just as he was. He's still that lost little boy up in there.
And it ain't like he's getting Instacart deliveries. Like, no. I think you're right when you're like, he's a turtle. And
committing to the outsider is an interesting theme of Tim Burton's work. But I do think at times, not so much in this one, but definitely in another one we're going to talk about, problematic. There is something romantic about being the outsider, but there is also something dark about being the outsider, right?
I'm weird. I'm a weirdo.
That's
why I wear this hat. As Jughead.
To go to Fantastic Mr. Fox, I'm different.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And different is okay, except for a lot of the time in Tim Burton movies.
I think, again, that's part of, like, just his constant soliloquy that runs through so much of his work. And then for becoming celebrated for it.
Yeah.
But also, like what I mentioned before about how big is too big.
Yeah.
How big can you be before everyone's waiting for a fall?
Yeah.
And I think that sort of that shows in his works, but it kind of lets you release enough that all the expectations, you did something big, you failed. Well, cool, now you're known as a failure. It doesn't matter what you do from now on. If you succeed again, I mean, that's everybody else's plus.
Yeah.
And, we'll love you again, but, we know you're a failure. We know you can fail again. There's kind of freedom to that.
Yeah.
And I think that's why he does, even as, such a big director as he is still willing to take those risks. It's why he tried Planet of the Apes. Did it fucking work? No.
I wonder if you asked him how he felt about it, if he would be honest.
I'll call him up tomorrow.
Yeah, exactly. But I want to be clear. I have issues with it, but I think this is a movie absolutely worth watching. My opinion is kind of minority on this one. So,
it did have the feels.
Yeah. And I think because he wrote it and because it is 100% Tim Burton, if you want to know what a Tim Burton film looks and feels like, this is the one. This is the Tim Burton aesthetic. You will see Edward Scissorhands bleeding into every other thing he touches.
Oh, for sure. Well, that's because his hands are scissors.
That's right. So, well said. So, yes, I think it's necessary Burton films. It's just never one of my favorites.
I do like that with creating this sort of repertoire, this relationship with Johnny Depp, it started in such an innocent role, such an innocent place, because I think that this is Tim Burton finally getting full creativity. He was bearing himself. He was like a little child, just sort of, here's what I actually have in me. And so that was exposing himself. And Johnny Depp playing this role that was so naive and childlike when he was a heartthrob.
Right.
It was such a new experience for him. So them finding each other, especially at this time and with this sort of project, I absolutely see this is why they stuck with each other for so long. They were, well, what do you want to do next? It's just, what a great career and what...
every time, whatever you're going to do, it's going to be a big swing. So, if it swings and it misses, it swings and it misses. But it was an ambitious swing. Yeah. And if you swing and you hit, well, then you make another $1 billion and your next project can be whatever the fuck you want it to be.
Gary Oldman literally took roles because he's Fifth Element.
Yeah.
Lost in Space, that funds the small stuff I do for the next 2 years.
That's right.
And then I'm all, oh shit, my bank account's empty. Time to do another big hit. And he's so honest about that and open. And quite honestly, I think that's sort of where Tim Burton, when he started getting success, I can try a little riskier things.
Yeah. Yes, it hurts my heart to see John Turturro in the Transformers movies, but at the same time, I know for a fact that for every Transformers movie he's in, he's made a couple dozen indie movies that he cared about.
So. I can't remember the actor right now, but someone saw him in something and apparently it was just atrocious, and so they decided upon meeting, I think with Michael Caine or someone,
right?
You were horrible in that one movie, and he's like, oh, okay, but it paid for my mom's house.
That's
so
Jaws 4.
It's one of my favorite.
He said, I've never seen Jaws 4. I'm told it's terrible. But I've seen the house it bought, and it's amazing.
That's exactly it. Yes. Thank you for knowing that, because I was I know I'm butchering this. But, you also have to understand that. And with actors, it is very feast or famine.
Yeah.
And to have someone that you can have, creative say on something, why wouldn't you encourage and continue that relationship?
I'm sorry, boy.
I can't believe it!
Your dog is alive!
Sparky, shh. Easy, boy. I can fix that.
In 1984, Tim Burton made a short film called Frankenweenie, and it was live action mostly. I think there's minimal animation in it, but I remember it being sort of like a kid's journey into accepting that things die and that grieving is important and a necessary component to life. And this new version of Frankenweenie, which was in 2012, is kind of not that at all. It's the same story in that there's a boy who loves his dog and something bad happens to his dog. I couldn't even say it out loud, but something terrible happens to his dog, but he is such a scientific genius that he is able to resurrect his beloved pet. And the other kids around him catch on to what's going on, and they want to bring their pets back, and problems ensue. But I enjoyed watching this movie. I watched it with my kids, the whole sort of like family night type of vibe for it. And it's so weird. Like, it's so weird that I almost have to ask who they really thought the audience was for this movie. Like, I feel like Disney said, yeah, we're greenlighting this, but you're going to do Dumbo, right? We're greenlighting this, but this is the one that you do for you, and then we're going to have our payday with your next project. Because it's black and white, expensive stop motion. It makes references to, like, golden age actors like Peter Lorre. You know, just the type of thing that the kids today are really going to get off on. It's in a pastiche of the 1950s or early 60s style horror movie presentation. And, I mean, I enjoy all of these things, but none of this seems like it would light a fuse at the box office or excite children particularly. It's kind of grim and morbid. I think that he consciously, for the feature film over the short, tried to make it more fun, but it's by creating these kaiju creatures or this weird, crazy psychic cat that poops premonitions and, like, just a consistent commitment to the weirdest and sort of Edward Goreyest kind of choice at every possible corner in the movie. And to me that adds up to an entertaining hour and 28 minutes or whatever it is. But I don't know how great it is as a kid's movie. It's more like a midnight screening at a university, or like it's hard to say it's for adults, but it might be too weird and scary for kids. I like that it's not a full-blown musical like the Corpse Bride movie that he made was. I found that made it more accessible to me. I was kind of like worn out by the constant singing of their feelings in that other one, but I mostly like this movie, but I'm kind of left feeling oddly stunned and weirded out when I watched it. And my boys seemed to enjoy it while it happened, but I'm sure these months later, after we screened it all together, if I was to ask them about it, they would fail a very basic quiz about what happened. So I'm not as enthusiastic of this one as I was about the Sleepy Hollow when we were talking about Sleepy Hollow. But I do feel like it's a thumbs-up review, and similar, like I said, to Sleepy Hollow, it's probably close to the middle, but it, you know, might climb a little bit because it does have an absurd and distinct charm. But what does an Australian person think?
Yeah, I think you're very right in that it's who's it for? Like, what's the audience for this? I think I can only imagine it's film students or people who somehow are really into, you know, all the classic horror beats and Godzilla. And yeah, it's the visuals are really like dark and disturbing for a kids movie. The characters are so horrifying, and like the weird girl's got these tiny little pinhole eyes, and you know, the Igor character, you know, he's like what a monstrous looking child, and the science teacher with his teeth and that long face. Yeah, I mean, I definitely. It's not a welcoming world, is it? No, it's horrifying for sure. And then, yeah, I think the message is subverted by the ending. You know, spoilers. The dog comes back to life. Like, oh, you don't have to let go of your pets that die. It's fine. Yeah, and I think that is kind of an important miss. Like, if you're going to go this weird and this dark, maybe commit to that theme. Like, maybe this needed to be the stop motion Where the Wild Things Are, where it's less for kids, but more about kids, and sort of the death of childhood and mourning. Don't be jealous, but I own the soundtrack to this motion picture.
And there's this song by Group Love called Underground on it. And it's sung from the voice of a little boy trying to convince his parents how brave he is for not crying at his dog's funeral. And every time the chorus hits, that kid's crying over his dog. And it gets me in the feels. But that's not what this movie is. Like, it's like they wrote that song for the short film. Because in the end, the bad kaiju pets made by the bad bullies, they're defeated. And the community, in gratitude to Victor for all of, the saving of the community that he's done, find a way. They all love Frankenweenie enough together to bring him back to life again. And so he never does have to deal with that loss, and he never does have to confront his grief in the way that, is in a real thing. But I say all that, this is a movie that has, like I say, kaiju monsters attacking a carnival. Like, like, how deep could that be?
Yeah, it's interesting. But I mean, you can weave stuff into even the silliness. But I mean, it is like the animation and everything. It's so striking. It's so distinct. It feels like this is what Tim Burton's wanted all along. It's all the things distilled into this. Very, very well done. Very well done. If a bit middling story.
Yeah, I mean, I'm pushing all of the positives, and it is a thumbs up review, but I think that it is because it's a simplistic story. It's one of those things they had to sort of add more meat to it to make it grow out of the short film that it was, and some of the pieces might feel more extraneous than others. I agree with you. I'm such a fan of this style of animation that I can just enjoy it on a visual level and sort of dismiss some of the other things. But it's nice when you get both, which is usually what you get out of an Aardman movie, right? Like, with the exception of that early Man movie, I think that they're very, very consistent as far as, being for everyone. But this is certainly not for everyone. But I kind of suspected that it might have this cult energy to it, like A Nightmare Before Christmas did, the Henry Selick one. But like that one snowballed and snowballed and snowballed. It was successful, but it never stopped being successful. And it screens at Halloween and it screens at Christmas, and it did. And I thought maybe there was a chance that this one would get that, but it's been like 13 years, and I feel like if that was going to happen, it probably would have happened by now.
Yeah, this is I had vaguely known about it and the original, and but yeah, it never found an audience, I suppose. But I mean, still, it's Tim Burton's got recurring themes, doesn't it? Because there's the ghost dog in
Nightmare Before Christmas. Yeah. Well, and there's the hallmarks, the weird Burton-esque Dr. Seuss trees, and his cast coming back: Winona Ryder, Catherine O'Hara, Martin Landau, SCTV guy, Martin Short. Like, just like the only thing it's missing, notable absence of Johnny Depp. But let's just pretend he played Frankenweenie. But it is another example of a very Tim Burton aesthetic. Like, in the same episode, I talked about Edward Scissorhands and, like, the Tim Burton look of the suburbs and the Tim Burton look of the outsider mansion on the edge of town. This universe, every house is the outsider mansion on the edge of town. Like the aberration.
The American Gothic.
That's right. No straight lines anywhere. Just everything's leaning.
He did it in the bloody the remake of Charlie and the Chocolate Factory as well.
That's right.
They live in the wonky house, and he's too obsessed. Oh, now I'm just going to mention this because in that film, it should be Charlie lives in a normal house and he goes to the Wonka's factory, and it's weird there, right? And then Tim Burton can do his thing, but this is why. Like his obsession with what he's into, it like sort of poisons him, or holds him back at least from making something more than what he's comfortable with.
Yeah, he doesn't close the deal beyond the Tim Burton vibe a lot of the time.
Yeah, he's very he's into his thing, he does his thing, and sort of I don't care who I'm making this for, it's for me, Mr. Burton.
But in that way, I think animation is a good medium for him because of the amount of control that it dictates and the necessary stylization. But yeah, I think it's fair to say he didn't stretch himself beyond directing a stop motion movie, which I'm not going to say is easy. But no, he's been telling this story since the 80s, right?
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's impressive that they got a full feature-length stop motion movie made in 2012.
Yeah,
that's pretty impressive. And I was just looking it up before. Apparently they're quite huge puppets and everything. Would have been a hell of a production to work on, but.
Oh, it takes a long time to make a movie like this, and it was expensive, and I'm sure that Disney knew it wasn't going to be a blockbuster. I doubt they lost money on it, but I don't think they made a ton of money on it. But that's what Alice in Wonderland was for, right? Is there anything else you would like to say about Frankenweenie, or are we just going to get sad about dead dogs? And
no, well, I've been a bit negative on it, but I didn't dislike it. Overall, it's a thumbs up.
But you're not enthusiastic at all. It doesn't sound
enthusiastic. Yeah, I wouldn't be upset if I had to watch it again, but it wouldn't be my first pick.
There's Chris Tomich throwing out his back in attempting to praise Frankenweenie.
You're back, Alice.
Alice.
See, Alice. You're absolutely Alice. I'd know you anywhere. You're all late for tea!
Alice has returned to Wonderland.
Since you've been gone, the Red Queen has taken over all of Wonderland.
Find her!
Help us make the world right again.
I need a pig here. I love a warm pig belly for my aching feet. Stop that. We have our champion.
Hold on tightly.
This is impossible.
Only if you believe it is.
Yeah, special welcome to Maya, and as usual, our regular contributor, Mr. Lee Beckman. It's a special occasion indeed. We're talking about Tim Burton's 2010 take on Alice in Wonderland. And usually what I do, Maya, is I give my whole spiel first, and I give a rough outline of what I thought and my first general impressions, and then I hand it over to my guests. But I thought in this case, I might just start with you because I think maybe you're more the target audience for this movie than me or your dad. So just first off, what were your impressions? Did you like the movie?
I kind of liked it. I didn't like, there was lots of people losing their eyeballs.
There was lots of people losing their eyeballs. I was actually going to bring that up. Do you have an eye phobia?
There was one point where, I forget her name, but the little mouse lady, and the bear/dog, whatever that thing was.
Bandersnatch.
Got this little toothpick and
Bandersnatch, yes.
Bandersnatch, and stabbed it in her eye. So that was interesting. I also didn't understand why the queens were mad at each other or stuff like that. And the Red Queen had a big head.
She did have a big head. I thought she was pretty funny, though. What's that?
It's funny because she didn't have anything in her head. I liked the cat the most.
That was your favorite?
That was my favorite character.
The Cheshire Cat?
Well, I find it like a hard thing to review, honestly, for a grown-up person as myself, partly because I really liked the original Disney version of Alice in Wonderland, and because I read the source material of both Alice in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass. I kind of know there's a lot of depth to these stories. There's like lots of songs and madness and weirdness in it, and lots of philosophy and lots of like big ideas, and it's all filtered through this sort of dream logic and strangeness. And it feels like to me that Tim Burton and Johnny Depp really zeroed in on the madness and the sort of quirkiness. So I'm just saying that I thought it's a visually impressive movie. There's lots of cool stuff in it, but I don't think it matches the potential of the story or is anywhere near as deep or interesting as the original story. Now, I don't think that's the same way you watch movies. You like the sort of spectacle and the adventure. And you're saying for you, it worked. Right? Mm-hmm. So, I liked this movie more before, but here's another thing that people blame this movie for, because it made $1 billion. Over $1 billion in the box office. Disney got this idea that they should keep remaking their animated films. And they've been doing it continually ever since. And even though this movie, it winks at the original Disney movie, it's not a shot-for-shot remake. But it is kind of the movie that made it popular to do these live-action remakes, which a lot of people take issue with. So, there's a lot of baggage around this movie. What did your dad think of the movie?
I grew very frustrated and tired. Not even, it's a sequel to Alice in Wonderland, is what it is. So already I sort of felt false advertising, because it's not Alice in Wonderland. Yes, there's allusions back to the original story, and I felt like Tim Burton knew both, the kids aspect of the story and also the adults themes of the story. And I thought it looked beautiful. I know, and much like a Tim Burton movie, a very busy visually. And it was neat to, hear, some old British actors like Alan Rickman, rest in peace, and other, famous people. But I just saw myself with my arms crossed, kind of going, no, and felt like I was kind of lied to, because it's not Alice in Wonderland. It's like I said, it's a sequel. And I think I finally gave up on the movie when the Mad Hatter started to become a rebel fighter for la resistance. And I just went, this is not Alice in Wonderland. Well, Alice in Wonderland does not end in a big epic fight between, the Red Queen and the White Queen, and there's a big battle and everything.
The Jabberwocky is a poem within Alice in Wonderland. Sorry, the creature that she fights, the Jabberwocky, is just like one poem of many from Alice in Wonderland. In this movie, it comes sort of like the major adversary, the big climactic thing of the movie.
Yeah, and it just felt really out of place, and it felt very Americanized. Like, we've got to have a big fight. And I just thought that they've missed the boat. I mean, they understood a lot of the adult themes, including some of the sadism. But it felt really wrong. And as much as I admire Johnny Depp's interpretation of the Mad Hatter, I thought he was good, and it reminded me how, give him a little makeup and he can completely transform himself. that was neat. I don't quite know what Anne Hathaway was doing.
Yeah.
She seemed just very whispery and very passive, and I just went, I don't know if this is working.
She was kind of doing Glenda from Wizard of Oz. Like the good witch from Wizard of Oz, but in a very precise, like, tipping the hat way. And I was like, does she think this is a Wizard of Oz movie or something?
I mean, I think Helena Bonham Carter did really well as the Red Queen. Always good to see Crispin Glover. He was sort of the henchman with the one eye. It's always good to see him. So well cast, I will say that. And I think the actors did show up.
I'm a little bit wishy-washy on Crispin Glover in this particular movie, but I don't think it's entirely his fault. They animated his entire body, basically. All the performance that we're getting is his head. Everything else is animated, and it's kind of obvious sometimes. That was one of the things I was going to say. I agree to an extent that the movie's beautiful at times. But one of the other jarring things of it for me is that at times it's great as far as visual effects. At times I don't think that the effects are that great. They're so Pixar-y digital CGI that I feel like this just might as well be entirely animated. Why isn't it entirely animated? I also wanted to ask Maya if there was anything other than the eye stuff that she found scary. Was it anything about this movie that was a little bit too horror for you? No? They can't see you shake your head.
You gotta say no. Yes, I know. Laurie's told me it's radio, not television, many times.
I also liked when she went into like I'm just gonna call it a dog bear. I forget its name again. But I like it when she went into like its cage and had to go get its eye back, give it back, and then had to get the sword and all that.
Yeah. The Bandersnatch was kind of basically a dog and a bear all at the same time, but it turns out maybe more dog than... That's right. It turns out maybe more a dog than bear, so he's friendly. There's also completely CGI dog and rabbit characters, which again look good, but make me just wonder if the movie might have benefited from being outright animated. Johnny Depp is fine as the Mad Hatter, but this was sort of the solidification of the era of Johnny Depp, where quirk equals character. And it's not just for Alice in Wonderland. It's appropriate for Alice in Wonderland because he's the Mad Hatter. But this kind of, much performance was going to be a kind of what Depp did for a while. And it's not his best era, I don't think.
No. To me, he sort of started to lose his way a little bit by the time Charlie and the Chocolate Factory started to come around, and this, where I think he seemed very trapped within that whole Disney universe.
Well, that's Tim Burton talking about working with Disney. I mean, it's hard to relate to this guy because one of his first jobs was an animator on The Fox and the Hound. And the whole time he was doing it, he was miserable that he didn't want to be animating The Fox and the Hound. Boo-hoo. There are people who would love to be working as animators for Disney. It seems like whenever he works at Disney, he bitches about it, but they give him a budget beyond anything he could ever get his hands on. And if it works, he kind of soaks it up. And if it doesn't, he tends to blame Disney. And honestly, I think that's kind of weak. This is a sloppy Tim Burton movie, and on paper, it seemed like a really good idea. Tim Burton and Alice in Wonderland, that almost seemed preordained. It seemed like that should work, and it's kind of crazy how much it doesn't for me. I think on a basic light show distraction level, there's worse movies than it, but I'm trying to grade it on its kind of potential. I think it should have been greater. And I think despite the fact that it made $1 billion, people noticed because they made a sequel to this movie and it tanked. So
I also think because this is one of the films when 3D was huge, where either a lot of movies were either shot in 3D or in post-production, they decided to go 3D, and you can tell. And that's where I wonder about some of the CG animation, where it might have looked good on the 3D screen, but when it's 2D, it makes it kind of go, yeah. So I do wonder about that. Once again, my biggest issue is, if you're going to call the movie Alice in Wonderland, do the story, right, not the sequel. And I think that's where I just kind of went, wait a minute. Like, you can call it Alice Returns to Wonderland. Fine, whatever. But if you're going to do Alice in Wonderland, do the story.
Well, the thing is that Alice did return to Wonderland when she goes through the looking glass and into the backwards world. Like, there's a whole book and series of stories about that. It seems like a piecemeal of a bunch of Alice stuff that they've pulled together.
Yeah.
Hey Maya, did you find any kind of what I guess people would call girl power vibes? Was it empowering for a young lady like you to see Alice kick butt? You like that?
When she was doing the Jabberwocky, there's also another knockoff movie of it, kind of. There's this movie called The Rise of Red Descendants. It has Red Queen, but the Red Queen's daughter and stuff like that.
So I think another mistake that maybe this movie made, despite, and I agree with what Lee said, your dad said about, the big dragon fight at the end being pretty standard for a fantasy movie, is part of what made Alice really cool is that because she was a little girl from the Victorian age, and she was supposed to be well-mannered and poised and, not make ripples or defend herself or ask hard questions. And all throughout Wonderland, she does this because it's this sort of dream world where she can get away with things. Part of the whole point is that, Alice can really be herself in this Wonderland and not in the real world. And as much as it's nice and romantic that there's this, or anti-romantic that she decides to make her own choices and become this girl power sort of figure, I think that's not true at all to the original book. I think Alice learns how to be powerful from her imagination, but it doesn't change the world around her. That's almost more a fairy tale than anything we see in Wonderland, unfortunately. You agree with that?
Yeah.
Is there anything you would like to say about Alice in Wonderland, Maya?
In the real world, people, she kept seeing these things, but the other people didn't. And, the mom of the orange kid, or whatever, the kid that wanted to marry Alice, or whatever.
Her fiancé?
Yeah, that mother.
They went on a walk, and she saw the rabbit with the watch, and the mom was she says she hates rabbits, and then I was offended.
You were personally offended.
I actually like rabbits, lady.
Most people like rabbits, but most rabbits can't talk and carry watches. That's unusual.
Yeah, I don't remember the caterpillar being kind of a rude character either. I know that's just sort of Rickman, but no. Am I just wrong about that?
No, a lot of the they're not rude necessarily. They're really, really blunt. There's a scene where Alice asks the White Rabbit if he loves her, and he just says no. I can't love anybody who doesn't love herself. And they're these really blunt but kind of real answers that she gets that she would never get again from the real world. It would be sugar-coated for her. She learns hard lessons, but she doesn't sort of sit and cry and pout about it. She succeeds within the world. And that is still basically true in this sort of Tim Burton interpretation. But I don't know. I would have been bummed if he made an exact shot-for-shot-ish remake of the original, but this just seems I don't know, oddly phoned in. It looks right, but it feels wrong.
Yeah. Well, you don't have to do a shot-for-shot remake. You can look at the original text and still pull new stuff. At the same time, bring that sort of Tim Burton, imagination. Like, I love when she goes, when she falls through the hole and all of that. That stuff was great. And, but as I said, and I'll say it again, if you're going to do Alice in Wonderland, do the story. There's lots to pull from.
Again, any corner of this story, like a lot of inventions are from Humpty Dumpty is from the Alice in Wonderland universe, right? Like the Jabberwocky, obviously, and all sorts of things like these isolated limericks sort of have lives of their own and could be movies of their own. It's an incredibly big world to play in. But I know it's for kids too. I think that if they went too straight and dark and like mythical or heavy with it, like they would lose their audience. But I think try and do that thing where it's there for the kids, but it's also got a little something smarter for the adults. I think might have gone a long way. Or go crazy, like go really crazy, like make it psychedelic, make it almost nightmarish, because why the hell not? This is something like the 30th film interpretation of Alice in Wonderland, so...
Yeah.
I also like the rabbit that drank lots of coffee in it.
Yeah. I love the Mad Hatter scene in the original Disney one, and there's a little mouse that gets all drunk and sinks into the teapot. I always thought that was hilarious when I was little.
Yeah.
There was a movie like that?
Oh, yeah, no, there's the original Disney cartoon classic.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's fun. It's really short. I think you guys should maybe watch it sometime because it's a fun little movie. Maybe do a double feature of Alice in Wonderland and Aliens. Oh, you couldn't see it, but she made a funny face. Well, is there anything you guys want to say to wrap up Alice in Wonderland?
To wrap it up?
Yeah.
What did you like about it?
I liked the special effects, and I liked some of the acting, but for such a busy, exciting movie, I honestly felt kind of bored a little bit.
Me too.
Also, before we end the podcast, I want to say something, so let me know when we're ending it.
Okay, well, you have the final word, girl. What's your message?
Off with your head!
From the imagination of director Tim Burton.
Most men, they'll tell you a story straight through. It won't be complicated, but it won't be interesting either.
Did you ever think that maybe you're not too big, but maybe this town is just too small?
They say when you meet the love of your life, time stops. And that's true. Your mother was never supposed to marry me. She was engaged to somebody else.
Forget it, kid. Don't waste your time. She's out of your league.
You don't even know me.
Sure I do. You were hot stuff back in Hickville. But here in the real world, you got squat.
Now, I may not have much, but I have more determination than any man you're ever likely to meet.
Sandra Templeton, I love you and I will marry you.
I was drying out.
This holiday season.
Dad, I have no idea who you are.
What do you want, Will? Who do you want me to be?
Just yourself. Just show me who you are for once.
Discover an adventure as big as life itself.
Sean Lawrence, you reached out to me, said that you were a fan of the show, and thought maybe you would want to participate. Is that basically the gist of it?
Yeah, absolutely. One of your other esteemed guests happened to have been one of my kids' teachers, and we were having a conversation. It got to horror. He talked about this podcast. I started listening, and I loved it.
Awesome. Well, this is a positive tale. I mean, this is the first time you're doing a review for the podcast, and I just want to express the reality of this. Daniel Epler reached out, another YouTube guy, and did a few episodes, and now Sean has done the same thing. So if you are into the rank and review and you feel you want to try out doing a review, maybe reach out to me. I can't promise I can say yes to everyone on everything, but I'm always looking to expand my audience, because I've been doing this for 11 years, if you can believe that, Sean.
That's a long time, yeah.
And, I just started up on YouTube, but I still feel like my numbers aren't anywhere near what I would like them to be. I don't have to be huge, but I like it to be, have an audience. So you are proof that I can reach new listeners. So this is a positive experience for me. Can I ask you a question?
I think that's okay.
How do you feel about Mr. Tim Burton?
I like Tim Burton movies. He's hit and miss for me, but I love his style.
Yes. That is pretty much dead on to where I am with Tim Burton, in that I started out being a fan because growing up with him, like, I really liked Pee-wee's Big Adventure when I was a kid. I love Beetlejuice to this day. The Michael Keaton Batman, the Tim Burton Batman, kind of was my Batman. So I kind of came into Tim Burton being this huge fanboy, but the more years and decades that slip by, the harder it is to be a fanboy for Tim Burton, because let's be real, he has creatively stepped on a rake more than a few times.
Planet of the Apes might be one of the biggest rakes.
Yeah, his remakes I haven't been a big fan of, like the Dumbo, the Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, the Planet of the Apes. On paper, I see how that might be a good idea, like that sounds like it would be a good idea, but rarely has it sort of connected for me. I think what makes Big Fish an exception to this, well, not an exception, he's made a lot of good movies, is that the novel it's based on, if someone would have told me this was an original Tim Burton creation, you could almost believe it. It seems to fit his aesthetic, like, to a ridiculously perfect degree. We've got the dark carnival sort of aspect, we've got the grand emotional fantasy, kind of the overwrought romance, but in a context that is, palatable. All of the stuff that he's really good at, it was like this guy wrote the novel to cater to him. Rarely do I think of like a story and a director connecting so perfectly. I have not actually read the book. I don't mean to imply that I have, but moving into Big Fish, what was your draw when you went to see it? Were you just checking out the new fantasy movie starring Ewan McGregor, or was it Tim Burton that brought you there?
I think it was the trailers. I don't even know if I knew it was Tim Burton at first. When I was younger and had more time, I just watched all the movies that even remotely caught my interest, and I like to experiment with watching different ones, and that one just really hit me, and I still watch it to this day. It's just one of the ones I watch a lot. But yeah, once I knew it was Tim Burton, I'm like, yeah, that makes total sense.
So it sort of leaned into my likes because of the Tim Burton, because of the high fantasy, and it sort of has that, well, it's not even really a coming of age, it's a father-son sort of story, right? Billy Crudup has a difficult relationship with his father because he feels like his father keeps on telling these fantastical stories and being the brightest bulb in the room and being this great entertainer, but on some level is just not a real person, is just fundamentally full of crap. And, well, that's his perspective on it, he just hears the same stories, the same jokes his entire life, and he gets sick of it, he gets tired of it. And the movie, and presumably the novel, is sort of the romantic vision of all of these stories of his father's life, as if these tall tales were completely true. Now, what is true and what isn't, I think that the audience is left to sort out. The movie...
I'm really happy that, in the end, it isn't fantasy. I think there's a level of reality over the whole movie that wasn't spoiled by it being, some high fantasy. It was this imaginary fantasy, right. If that makes sense.
It's a tricky and very sort of valid and relevant story to tell pretty much any time, because we live in a world where everybody pretty much gets to make up their own reality. I think Life of Pi is another movie that sort of rings a similar bell. Are you familiar with that movie?
I've never watched it.
Right.
We have the book somewhere at home here, but I've never read or watched it.
Well, without ruining the experience of it, there's a boy on a boat with animals, and we see this survival story, but in the end, we are shown a different perspective that asks us to recast everything that we have seen. So it's sort of similar in that way to Big Fish. I think it's real if you want to believe it. It's real because it's romantic. It's real because that's the way, he wants it to be. But, did Albert Finney really turn into a big fish and swim away, or did he die next to his son in that hospital room? I think he died next to his son in the hospital room.
Yes.
Right? But
that's where I stand.
Yeah, and then when we go to the funeral and we start seeing these other faces of people that we've seen through the rest of the movie, I think it means, yes, these people exist, these people were important to his life, but that doesn't necessarily mean we have to believe that he survived a flood and saw a mermaid, or that Danny DeVito was an actual werewolf, or that, you know, you don't have to take it literally, but he did have these adventures. These places were part of his life. He just put his own sort of eccentric spin on everything.
Exactly. That's exactly how I saw it.
Okay. So with this type of fantasy, I find there is maybe one chink in the armor, and I wonder if you'll agree with me. I think it's true of this movie, and it's kind of true, and I step on people's toes when I say this, of 90s classic Forrest Gump. When you have a central character that Ewan McGregor's playing, and he is born a blessed figure, right? He's inherently good at everything. He's incredibly charming. He's a great public speaker. Everybody innately loves him, right? He's just born perfect, more or less. And there seems to be a weird counterbalance. There's another character that grows up in the town, and he's just always second best, always, you know, under the shadow, always just failing just about. And they even end up competing for the same girl, and he, of course, loses the girl. And, you know, Ewan McGregor lives this great life, and he dies this humiliating fate. And it's all just fate, right? It's just... Ewan McGregor was born under the right sign. You were born under the wrong one. There's a similar thing in Forrest Gump. Forrest Gump, everything he does works out for him almost innately. But Jenny, because she was born poor and her parents don't love her, everything that happens to her is complete garbage. It's a world that doesn't really evenly display fates. So it kind of undercuts the value of the aw shucks a little bit to know that it's just because he won the lottery, basically. Not because of who he was, but just how he was. Is there any validity to that argument, do you think?
I think so. You know, I wonder if Ewan McGregor's character, I can't remember the character's name for some reason.
I'll bring it up
the dad.
Yeah.
I think he, you know, everything worked out in his life just perfectly in his stories. I think things worked out really well. But I think he worked really hard for that in the real life version of his character. Where Forrest Gump was almost all just luck every step of the way, almost like supernatural luck.
There was just a path leading him to the right direction at all times.
That's right. Forrest Gump was just kind of walked into the wind and let it take him. And the dad character here, I think he worked really hard to get where he was.
Edward Bloom is the name of our protagonist. So
That's right, Edward Bloom.
But those are the problematic things with fantasy. I'm just bringing them up to get out of the way, because here's the truth about my opinion of Big Fish. I just think it wall-to-wall works for me. Even in places where it shouldn't, even when times where in another film I would think this is hurting my teeth, it's just a little bit too saccharine. I don't know. I think the balance here is just right. It's one of those things that if you go too hard, you could very easily over-tip and become too much. But for me, it hits that sweet spot. But I do think it's a personal kind of arrival. Like, if it works for me, it might not work for everyone, right?
I think the really interesting balance in this movie that I don't usually see is they have extreme happiness and everything's bright and shiny, but then it's met with sadness at the same time, you know? His wife, Edward Bloom's wife there, you know, at the end, like, she's, like, just really sad. Not just that he's dying, just the state of everything. Like, when we're talking real world stuff, there's a layer of sadness, and then you're just met with extreme happiness, and usually it's happiness met with trauma, you know, instead of just melancholy.
Well, and I think for the Jessica Lange, that's Sandra Bloom, it's a double tragedy for her husband is dying, and they all see this coming. It's been a prolonged illness, so like they're on some level prepared for it to happen. But it's compounded by the fact that her son and her husband have not spoken in many years, and that a lot of it is pride going both ways. You know, neither of them are ever going to be able to admit to the other what the other wants them to admit. It's just fundamentally not how that relationship works. And I think that friction exists in a lot of father-son dynamics. It's not necessarily explicitly this, but there's something there that goes unsaid, right? And you love your father, but in some level he can drive you right up the wall, but you have to reconcile these things. And there is a deadline, which, if you don't, you may spend the rest of your life regretting it. I don't think Albert Finney maybe deserved to be shunned in the way he did. I don't know if it's in the writing or in the Billy Crudup performance, but it always seems like he's been way too hard on his dad. But I think the movie and the screenplay is loaded to make us love Ed Bloom, even though on some level we believe he's full of shit. We are supposed to love him, and we kind of do, right?
That's right. I wish we had a little bit more of the story of the boy growing up with his father. We know what happens. We were told, but I don't think it's ever presented to us how much of a toll it took on. We're just told how much it is, but we're not shown how much it has damaged him over the years, where he would shun his father that much and treat him that way. Because it does seem pretty extreme, like you said, that he would treat his dad that poorly just because of some tall tales, right?
Yeah. I mean, I get his father making a speech at his wedding that's all about himself is incredibly, selfish and sort of eccentrically self-focused. You're here to celebrate your son and his marriage, not talk about yourself. Like, I can understand being upset by that. But yeah, I think if we saw that being as like it had snowballed, that this was the night where he finally lost his temper and it finally blew up. Whereas it just felt like he was irritated and he threw his hands up in the air and I'm not talking to my dad anymore. And again, I'm not sure if that's the screenplay or if that's Billy Crudup. I find Crudup a really strange actor in that sometimes I think he's great and other times I think he's barely there at all. And it's one of these memory movies where a lot of the stuff he's asked to do is to sort of like go through old papers or sit by the bed and look sad. He doesn't have... The main focus of the story is Ewan McGregor as young Ed Bloom and this long romance that he has and how he buys the house with the picket fence and how he gets involved in robbing banks and, all of these whimsical sort of tangent storylines, which is what makes up the good part of the movie. It's not necessarily one thing logically leading to the next. There are a bunch of these lovely, very well visually achieved vignettes. He meets and befriends a giant and undertakes a journey with them. And then he follows a mysterious path through the woods, including spiders, and finds this strange town that seems to be a metaphor for heaven itself. They've been waiting for him. Again, as to what this all means or what we're supposed to make from it, I think everybody gets to sort of play their own hand in that way. But the whole time, you kind of got this goofy grin on your face. As much as Tim Burton seems to resent and hate Disney, like when he worked on Fox and the Hound, he had nothing but shit to say about it. When he did, Alice in Wonderland and Dumbo, he almost had to hold his nose to work for Disney. Big Fish is as much a Disney movie as any Disney movie has ever been. It seems here to make you feel the aw shucks, and it does so very successfully.
Yeah, no, that's really good. Yeah, it does feel like it feels like classic Disney, where it had a lot of heart to it, but wasn't afraid to touch the dark side of things. Maybe that's just the 80s kid in me. Could be.
Well, and the 80s kids know that fantasy can go dark. And I think, little kids might find scares in this one, but for the most part, it's a very accessible movie. Like, you can watch it with the family and get the feels. And that's what it's meant for.
It's definitely got the feels. That's what hits me really hard, because my dad died like a couple decades ago, and so I think that's another reason this movie connects with me so much, because it just kind of makes me relive that too, but in a positive way,
You want to know who that guy was, and you know everything you're ever going to know about him now. It's sort of a scary place to be. And the melancholy is still there, but it doesn't leave you devastated. I think another sloppier fantasy movie, with it ending in Edgar Bloom's death, people would be walking out of the theater, hanky in hand, just feeling devastated. But it's sort of a celebration of an eccentric life, but an eccentric life well lived.
since you brought up the book, I just recently learned the book existed as well. I want to know, is it the book or Tim Burton or whoever wrote the screenplay? Who did that balance so well between that? Because, yeah, you walk out of the movie not feeling sad, but, you know, uplifted in a sad way, you know?
I think, like the family, we're prepared for it. We're told at the beginning of the movie that he's dying and there's not a lot of time. So it's not this sucker punch, devastating... I mean, it's tragic. I was going to say it's not a tragedy, but it's a tragedy. I mean, this guy dies at the end. But it's mainly about a celebration of the person's life, which is really what, you know, a funeral should be. It shouldn't... Of course, you're there to mourn, but more you're there to celebrate who that person was. And... yeah, I think that he would want his story to go on, but not necessarily the real story. Sort of the exaggerated... No, they weren't twins. They were actually, you know, conjoined twins. Yeah. Right? Yeah.
This has to be... make it a little bit more special.
No, my car didn't get stuck in a mud puddle. There was literally a storm that submerged the entire vehicle and waylaid me for weeks. Well, maybe not.
And maybe there's a giant tentacle holding on to the axle, you know?
Yeah, that's right. And that's the great thing about this world. Like, by the halfway point, anything's on the table. Like, no matter what crazy thing will be shown, we will just accept it. And
love it.
Yeah, and that's the sort of measure of a successful fantasy film. Take me away from my troubles and put me in a position to accept anything.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you'd like to say about Big Fish before we wrap this up?
I mean, as much as it is a perfect ending, and it really is, I'd almost want to see one more scene of him telling his young child stories of his father, of Edward Bloom. You know, passing on those tales to even the next generation.
Right.
And just really respecting those tall tales and making sure they live forever.
I feel like it is implied, but that is another great thing about fantasy, is that so we can sort of fill in these gaps ourselves. A lot of times the things that we resent about our parents or our influencers are sort of shadowy reflections of things we see in ourselves. Maybe that's what Crudup needs to make his peace with. Not just that his dad was okay, but that on some level he's just as full of crap as his old man.
Well, isn't his job in real life a journalist?
That's right.
Doesn't he also tell big stories?
But that's maybe why he, quote, values the truth. Like, he's an investigative journalist. He doesn't want to fudge the numbers, right? He wants to know what happened. He wants to know who his dad was. And who his dad was a fantasist. He was someone who found his life story boring, so he made it better through imagination.
Exactly, yeah. No, it's I think it was really neat how he just came to grips with it in the end, and I wonder how he's going to change for himself in the future too. Will he tell more fantastical stories, or will he stick with being truth only?
Well, maybe there's a balance to be found.
Exactly, and I hope that's found, because I almost feel that Edward Bloom might have had mental illness or PTSD from the war, and he almost had to create these stories just to stay sane, you know, and then that trauma carried over to his son in the opposite way, where he had to be fully truthful, and maybe that could be healed going forward and have that balance.
You don't necessarily have to learn to love the things that you resent or find difficult about your parents or yourself, but on some level, someday, you need to make your peace with them.
Yes.
So I think this movie is a salve in that way. And even though it underperformed at the box office, it wasn't this huge smash when it came out, it is a movie in the Tim Burton catalog that people are still talking about, and that I think will have more legs than people expect.
Yeah, and as people get older, I think it'll hit them harder too. You know, it's fun for when you're younger, and it just every step of the way you go, it's going to hit you in a different way.
You're a long way from New York, Constable.
Is everyone in this village enthralled to superstition?
We have many things to talk about, even in this backward place.
Excuse my man. I'm not used to.
Female company?
Murder! The Horseman's killed again!
The assassin is a man of flesh and blood, and I will discover him.
Are you so certain of everything?
Perhaps there's a bit of a witch in you, Katrina.
Why do you say that?
Because you've bewitched me.
So, in the tender year of 1999, Tim Burton comes out with Sleepy Hollow. And out of the gate, as someone who likes the story and who knows the original text, it is an abject failure in an adaptation of the story. I mean, I would say that outright. It's sort of like a Shining thing. Like, if you loved the novel The Shining, you're probably going to have problems with the movie The Shining. I feel like this is a movie that took the image of a spectral horseman, sans head, and built a completely different original mystery historical splatterfest around it. Which is fine, but why you call it Sleepy Hollow just... There can be another story about another headless ghost. I think we could probably make room for that. So, whereas the English major in me maybe will take some issue with the movie, the cinema goer of me in 1999, which was, by the way, an insane year for movies, did have a lot of guilty fun just with how gory and over the top Sleepy Hollow was. I remember being in a very full theater thinking, like, this is pretty basic for what Tim Burton's going to do, but I can't deny I'm getting some guilty pleasures out of it. Interesting to note, though, I've watched it several times in the shockingly many years that have passed since 1999, and instead of it withering away for me, I kind of increasingly find it more and more charming. I kind of appreciate a movie that doesn't really care about the audience's feelings as far as, upsetting the kids in the audience and being a little bit extra heavy on the scares and the violence. And that it seems more like a tribute to like a bloodier version of the classic Hammer horror movies than it is like any kind of serious literary effort. It's got goofy shit in it, and it knows that it has goofy shit in it, and it's okay with it having goofy shit in it. So I think you can enjoy Sleepy Hollow if you're willing to meet it in this crazy midway point. Because there's just too much to not recommend. You get to see Casper Van Dien cut in half. You get to see Christopher Walken deliver pretty much an entire performance going, rah, rah. It's like really over the top and has almost unnecessarily gorgeous production values. That entire movie is shot indoors in a studio, and it looks like they built a forest and a village, right? There's a lot to like, but at the same time, there's a lot to kind of make fun of. But instead of that weighing the movie down for me, it's kind of over time given me more to enjoy. So, a guilty pleasure thumbs up with increasing enthusiasm with time passing. But that's where I start on Sleepy Hollow. What do you think, my friend?
Well, I came into this completely blind, essentially. The Sleepy Hollow story is, I think, is American specifically, right? Because
it's one of the first great American
Revolutionary Wars and everything. So I kind of vaguely knew about it from like Simpsons references and things like that. Like there's a guy, a headless horseman, there's a pumpkin involved, and
Ichabod Crane is a nerdy school teacher in the original story, right?
Yeah, right.
He's not an investigator from London come to investigate these terrible phantom murders.
Yeah. I was. So when I saw this, I was like, I didn't know quite what to think, and then tonally, this is like all over the place. Like, is it comedy? Is it horror? And I was like, all right, I'm just gonna roll with it. And then, like, we get a flashback to the Hessian horsemen. I was like, oh, right, of course. I'm a history guy. I'm like, oh, of course, the German mercenaries who fought in the American Civil War. The American Revolution, sorry. And I'm like, oh, it's actually Christopher Walken as like a fang-toothed vampire on a horse fighting American continental soldiers. I'm like, oh man, this is wild stuff.
If you can have Christopher Walken in your movie, I say have Christopher Walken in your movie, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, what a cast in this film. I was like, just every scene, like, what, my God. And like, the performances are amazing, but yeah, tonally, I didn't know quite what to think. But there's some genuinely, like, hilarious moments. All the decapitations are so funny. And then there's some parts that are played, like, so gory and brutally, like the bloody tree.
Yes.
Hacking into that. I was like, oh, that's, like, pretty horrifying imagery. So, yeah, I came out, this is a film I think would build. Like, I'd watch it again and be like, okay, first time in, I'm a bit like, I don't really know what to think coming out of that.
And that's fair, because it is a mess of tone. You're right to say it. Like, the romance is so melodramatic. The tragic backstory about, Johnny Depp's character's past with the good witch mother or whatever is super hella dark and heavy-handed. And some of the scenes, like you say, are played bone straight, and other scenes are, like, over-the-top wacky. And this is a movie where you see an entire family, mom, dad, and little kid, get their heads cut off and carried away by the headless horseman, and you're kind of not sure how you're supposed to feel about it. I mean, it's a scary sequence, but then the next scene is getting a little bit goofy, and then the scene after that, back to melodrama, and the scene after that, a guy gets his head cut off, but his head spins 3 times around in the opposite direction, and then... I think Michael Gambon might be my favorite death in the movie. All of the civilians are hiding in the church, and the horseman can't pass the threshold, so he has to do this weird fishing line technique to get his...
Yeah, he was cheating a bit there with the thing. He's like, technically, I didn't go in.
These God rules are all the inconveniences, There's ways around this.
I like that sequence. I thought it was really cool just to see guys with muskets fighting off a monster. Wow, that's something I've never seen.
No, high points for that. But then there's this ludicrous scene where they have this chase inside a windmill, and then they drop, like, I don't know, gunpowder at the base of the windmill, and the whole thing explodes for some reason, and the chase continues. Well, you really just have to let this thing wash over you. I remember reading somewhere that there was like a running gag between Tim Burton and Johnny Depp, who, of course, work together all the time, to see how many times they could get blood squirted in Ichabod's face in one movie. So when you watch the movie again with that in mind, he does get blood in his face quite a bit.
Yeah, he does.
But these are the kind of things that Tim Burton's doing to amuse himself. Christina Ricci and Johnny Depp look up in a tree, and the fakest bird that you've ever seen in your life, like it's a Christmas tree ornament, makes this little chirping sound. And it's hilarious, but it's also stupid and mood-breaking, but it's also weirdly perfect. Like...
Yeah, it fits in with what else is going on in this film. And Johnny Depp's performance as Ichabod Crane is quite interesting as well. He's like this paranormal, he's an investigator, he's all logical, but he's all squeamish, and yeah, it's strange, but I did like the performance. I like Johnny Depp in this. This is we're in the good Johnny Depp era.
Well, he was still in the weird good Johnny Depp era, but it was good. It might have been the same article I read. Johnny Depp was talking about, like, he thought that this character had, like, a prepubescent girl detective energy. And he sort of molded that with, like, Jessica Tandy in Murder, She Wrote to, like, fashion this weirdo performance. So he is a little bit jumpy, and he's strangely effeminate at times, and like, but That's a strange, indulgent choice that probably shouldn't have worked, but I guess somehow did. I might have more, or I guess less good things to say about Christina Ricci. Not that I don't think she's a good actress, but there's something terribly modern about her presence. Like, she feels more contemporary than everything and everyone around her, somehow. Did you catch that, or...?
Yeah, but I kind of just folded into the tonal weirdness for me. I was like, they're making some light concessions to the period, I suppose.
Here and there.
I thought all the town's characters are quite good, especially the heads of the town.
There's just a murderer's row of character actors from England. Ian McDiarmid, the Emperor, is in this movie, man.
I know.
Miranda Richardson deserves a mention, playing 2 roles in this movie, and one of the scenes that was the most memorable to me the first time I saw it was the seance scene, where they go to visit the witch in the woods and she chains herself to the wall, and it gets really kind of sinister and Evil Dead for a second, but then her face kind of buggies out in a really cartoony, like, Pee-wee's Big Adventure kind of way that, like, seems to intentionally break the spell that they'd been pretty successfully casting. But I did like and remembered that scene, and it is kind of emblematic of what you're going to get with it. I don't think we should undersell the violence in it at all, though, too. Like, Tim Burton made a lot of family-friendly, crowd-pleasing movies, but this one really turns the taps on. Like, they get around some of the gore because I guess the Phantom Blade cauterizes the wounds, like, instantly, so you don't get a lot of spurting, but you get a lot of detailed decapitations.
You do. They also broke their own rules there because when the Lady Van Tassel, Lady Crane, which one?
Van Tassel.
When she decapitates the servant, she uses an axe.
That's right.
It's still like, okay, there's no blood still.
You're paying too close attention to Sleepy Hollow.
Yes, clearly.
It's fun. Like, it's undeniably fun. It's probably, if I'm honest, mid-tier Tim Burton. But if I was ever to do my Tim Burton list, it might sneak higher on the list than maybe it deserved, because it sort of feeds that joyful Halloween horror vibe, which I just do tend to, jive with.
Yeah, and there's a lot of excellent visuals and everything, with the tree, the houses, all the framing and everything.
Yeah. I got impatient with the opening credit sequence. I don't know if you noticed this, but like the opening credit sprawl feels like it goes on for the first 10 minutes of the movie.
Oh, I think I probably just disassociated for a while. I don't even remember.
This carriage ride. Well, they have the decapitating guy at the beginning sort of scene, and then there's the preamble where we meet Johnny Depp, and he's sent away to solve this phantom mystery far out of New York City proper. And he gets on this carriage and he starts riding, and music plays, and the credits start. And he keeps riding, and music keeps playing, and the credits keep rolling, and the scenery changes, and he keeps riding, and the credits keep rolling, and it's just, it's one of those things, like, I maybe it's just because I've seen it so many times, I was like, man, they're really making a meal out of this credit sequence. Like, there's an old John Carpenter movie, which I quite like, Prince of Darkness, which does this. It's like the first 10 minutes of the movie is the opening credit sequence, interspliced with strange scenes to let us know our cast. But it's like, how long are we going to go into this movie while I'm still watching the opening crawl of this movie?
I know, right? This is what George Lucas changed Hollywood to fix.
That's right.
So we never have to see credits at the start of a film again.
And it does feel like one of the old movies where back in the day where they would run every single credit at the beginning, and then when the movie ended, it would just say the end, and the film would be like flip, like, you may not sleep here. Like...
So but, I guess it fits into the vibe, right?
Yeah.
It's deliberately old school. Yeah, like you said, Hammer horror turned up to like absurdity.
This goes to 11. Yes.
It does, yeah. I mean, it's camp on purpose, right? And it works mostly, and I think it could build.
Yeah.
If I watched it again.
I think we're pretty close.
Knowing what to expect.
Yeah. Now that you know what you're getting into, you might be able to find more to it. It's crazy and inconsistent, but yeah, I think we're pretty much on the same page with this one. You know the vibe, and yeah, take the ride if that's your vibe.
I have given a name to my pain.
What are you? I'm Batman. Where did you get those wonderful toys?
My life is really complex.
Winged freak terrorizes. Wait till they get a load of me.
All right. In the tender year of 1989, so dropped my Batman movie. I was aware of Batman because I'd read a few of the comic books, but I wasn't like week to week. And I knew the cheesy 60s TV show, but at that point, I don't think I was even aware that there was a movie. It was just like, I think YTV used to play reruns or something of like the old Batmans in the afternoon.
Adam West, yeah.
With Adam West. And so I understood that there was a lot of noise before the movie was coming out. They promoted this movie for well over a year before it came out. Like they were rolling out posters and like this was designed to be the next big thing, right? Mm-hmm. And all of this talk, is Tim Burton the guy? Really? The guy who made Pee-wee's Big Adventure? And is Michael Keaton really gonna be Batman?
Oh,
like,
no one thought,
we love Beetlejuice, but like, let's be real. Like, Batman. And the word on the street was it was going to be the more darker version. It's not sort of the goofy, original, campy sort of Batman. This is going to be a comparatively darker. Now, if you compare it to the Christopher Nolan trilogy now, or the new version of Batman, this seems like a cartoon. But when this came out, this shit was hella dark. And it was more financially successful than anyone could have imagined. It ticked up Tim Burton's career to another level, and Michael Keaton's career to another level.
Oh, for sure.
The question that I want to bring to you after all of these years, because unquestionably it was great and it was successful in 1989. Is it still great today? That's the real riddle. I can't not love this movie because I've loved it for so long. But upon this viewing, I did start to see things that are flaws. Like, I think that the movie would have been almost timeless if not for the addition of Prince in the soundtrack.
Oh my god.
The Prince music not only is just some of the worst music that he produced as an artist, it ages the movie terribly. It is the thing that screams this is made in 1980s, and all of this effort being put into production and this noir gothic aesthetic is a little bit subverted by that soundtrack.
It's
the Danny
weird
Elfman
that
score,
I think, yeah. Oh, Danny
the Elfman
Elfman
score is perfect.
The Prince stuff is when it felt the most like a cartoon.
Yeah.
So,
and
yeah.
they leaned into it, like when the Joker and his goons are destroying the museum.
Oh, that was beautiful.
Like, it worked in that scene. But generally speaking, almost every time I heard Prince on the soundtrack, I was wishing it was something else. And the other knock I'm putting against it, and this one might be controversial, Jack Nicholson was made one of the highest paid actors in history because of this movie. I can't remember what his flat rate was, but he also got a chunk of the back end and the not just the ticket sales, but like the toys, the merchandise.
Yeah, he was one of the first actors to ever make that a condition.
I'm not going to say that he's bad in the movie, but I am going to say it was an effort-free performance for Jack Nicholson.
And he says it's one of his favorite performances ever.
Oh, really?
But it may be for that reason.
Right.
He just showed up. You know?
Well, and it like, he didn't need to work. Every shitty movie he made after this, as far as I'm concerned, is Jack Nicholson's fault, because he didn't need to work unless he wanted to. So unless you're doing a favor for a friend, pick the script that you really feel you like, right?
Well, hey, if they're throwing money at you, I mean, take the job.
Yeah.
Christopher Walken actually remembers being an unemployed, unhireable, like, poor, you know, stereotypical out-of-work actor, and he made a promise to himself that he would never turn down a role if he had the availability to take it.
Oh, absolutely.
Because he made that deal to himself when he was out of, like, if anything comes up, I'm taking. This is why he was in Balls of Fury.
Well, and I really hate when you see, like, some young actor, especially if they're a young actor, talk about the kind of scripts I'm getting sent are so insulting. And, like, I feel like on behalf of the millions of starving, desperate artists out there, go fuck yourself. You're being offered acting work. Be grateful. Like, seriously.
Yeah.
But, again, I'm not saying that Jack Nicholson is bad, but I am saying he's probably, of the screen performances of the Joker, to the lower end for me.
Okay.
I think for me, it is actually more about Michael Keaton and, believe it or not, Kim Basinger than it is about Jack Nicholson for me. And considering the amount of screen time that the Joker gets, that might be a problem. But I want to go back to where I started. I love this movie. I just, upon this viewing, probably my 30th or 40th viewing of the movie, you know, it's become, this many years later, it's a different experience watching it.
It was just so part of my DNA kind of growing up. Like, it was one of the first movies I ever saw that just struck me in a way that there's weirdos out there that like dark, weird shit. And that's pretty cool. Like, I finally kind of saw like myself in what he was creating and felt seen. Like, you know, I'm this little pre-goth weirdo kid that's obsessed with dark stuff, and then you see this dark and tormented hero who chooses to do good with all the things he could do. I mean, they do talk about how he donates to charities and all the other stuff. But he wants to go out there and punch some people because he's got rage in him. I just thought that was so cool. Absolutely. Fundraisers on one side, kicking some random guy's ass for, you know, breaking into a small town business, you know. I don't know, that was just really cool, and it really actually opened the door to comics for me. And I wound up becoming obsessed with comics and wanting to be a comic book artist. And even just the style of Gotham City, like, Tim Burton had a vision. This is what it's got to be. I don't care if it seems impossible, you're gonna figure it out, because my vision has to be realized. And to be a new director and to kind of throw your weight around that way, that there's now like aesthetics named after you, like, that's how good he was at getting his vision across. And like we were saying about just this set him up. How do you get bigger than big? You know, so there's going to be some flops in there. And then even actually on my rewatch, you said that you saw flaws. I saw little bonuses that I had never picked up on before because I was finally kind of watching it with fresh eyes. I put it on the background every year. This and Batman Returns are kind of my Christmas movies. And so just having it on the background, you know what it is. It's a comfort movie. Die Hard as well. But by watching it for the podcast again, like, I saw little details that I hadn't picked up since I was 10. You see it for the first time, it's all just so much information. But there's a little part where there's a file from the CIA that Batman's looking at, and it actually says nerve gas on it. I never understood
the connection of the Joker sort of stuff and how it kills people and how it affects the body and why they're smiling. I'm like, that's kind of weird that the Joker's face is now on everybody else. Like, I never made that connection that it was tied to nerve gas. I've watched this movie, like, you know, like, you, probably more than you, actually. Because you watch a wider range, I think, of things than I do. But, yeah, I mean, like, to be my age and noticing new details in a movie for the first time, because I finally paid attention again, really speaks to the wealth of detail that was done. And I think that that's what made it successful for me. Like, yeah, it was laughable to have Kim Basinger as, I'm a serious reporter. But she is mocked in the actual show for being beautiful but wanting to be a serious photojournalist. Like, so that was kind of really good acting. You know? I think she is really good in the movie, and I have in the past been a little bit dismissive of Kim Basinger. Like, I always thought it was weird. She used to be married to Alec Baldwin. Between the two of them, I think that Alec Baldwin should probably have an Oscar. But Kim Basinger has one, and he does not. It's strange. Like, again, I wouldn't necessarily take it away from her. She was good in LA Confidential, but, like, I don't see the range in Kim Basinger that I see in a lot of other actresses.
Well, wasn't she playing Veronica Lake, who also only had the ingenue look going for her? She really wasn't that good of an actor. So. The wooden acting parallels beautifully.
But yes, she is sort of saddled with the role. She does get scared and faint, and she does need to get rescued. But she remains likable and credible in this incredible world. Mm-hmm. And I think that's where I think the sweet spot of the first two the Burton Batman movies, they are super dark and goth, but they're also fundamentally silly and okay with it. I think that it's a tough line to walk because the Nolan one, and especially the Nouveau Batman, I think lean almost too serious.
Oh, yeah.
Because
they want you to believe it could actually happen.
At the end of the day, what is the story we're telling? This is a guy who dresses up in a costume like a bat and fights crime. So the more seriously you take it, the more ridiculous it starts to feel on some level. I don't know how Tim Burton managed to have his cake and eat it too, but I think he did. Maybe less so with Batman Returns. I love that movie, but I also think it's out of its goddamn mind.
I think I like that one better than this, so, you know, that's my baby.
Yeah, I don't mean to talk shit about your baby, but, like, I love it.
I don't know you.
I love it, but I get why people don't love it, I guess is what I'm saying. I think that it's a very tricky balance, and he got it right away. You have to remember, in '89, there weren't lots of superhero movies. Oh, God, no. This was like the second big feature Batman movie to ever exist, and the first one was a deliberately cheesy comedy. So by '89 standards, this was hella dark. It might as well have been the Nouveau Batman, the Matt Reeves Batman or whatever, but it's still goofy. It's still fun. Like, the Joker is out of his mind in a way that seems to be there to amuse the audience, not just himself.
It relishes in the absurd, and one of the reasons that I do kind of like the Jack Nicholson portrayal, the over-the-top, the fact that those scenes do seem made for a very obviously watching audience, is Joker is, in the comics, considered to be one of the only fourth-wall-aware characters. I believe Deadpool is the other one.
On some level, he knows he's a character in a comic book.
So why wouldn't you just, like, live it up? And that level of just leaning into the absurd, into that this is actually happening. I mean, and you have to suspend your disbelief in anything that you watch, including the news. But when it came to, like, Batman, and it just leaned into the dark and gritty, and we're telling a story, but it's also goofy little awkward moments. Like, he doesn't know how to talk to a girl.
Yeah. Where do you get those marvelous toys? I also think that some of the other peripheral characters... I love me some Jack Palance. Mm-hmm. He is an overactor. He was always an overactor, but he fits perfectly here, right? He's working against Jack Nicholson. Can you overact Jack Nicholson? Well, maybe Jack Palance can.
Let me get my Rolodex. No, what's so interesting about that is, as a kid, I had no idea who Jack Palance was.
Right. Yeah.
I just saw this cocky guy, you know, and it was really, again, cartoony to me. I was just, he's this
but in a fantastic way.
Right?
Yeah.
And it wasn't until I was older, and I was like, you know, then you get your IMDb, and you're learning about trivia and whatnot. And the reason that Tim Burton cast Jack Palance was, it's the only person you could consider actually being Jack Nicholson's boss.
Yeah.
He was the only one that had the gravitas. But I'm this little kid going like, they don't like each other. And they are like cartoony mad about it. And because I didn't have that history, I didn't have it. And as an adult watching it again, it finally also made sense to me why, when he's talking to Bob, his henchman, Andrew, my number one.
A guy, yeah.
And it's so...
He just made fun of his previous boss.
And that's it. And it took me until I was an adult to pick up on that's what was going on. You know, the more I say this, maybe I was just a very stupid child.
Speaking of Bob, the murder of Bob was like my favorite thing when I was a little kid.
Oh my God.
His right-hand man who is right there
bent
on
over
point,
backwards,
does nothing wrong the whole movie.
Has seen you murder other loyal henchmen.
And then Batman makes you look like an idiot. You ask Bob to give you a gun. Bob gives you a gun obediently, and you instantly murder Bob for no reason. Like, as a kid, for some reason, that both blew my mind and I thought was hilarious.
I mean, you know, the man has rage issues.
A knock against it that I had since I was a kid that I share till today. The whole Batjet.
Oh my god.
He flies into town with a Batjet, and then Joker pulls this incredibly long gun out of his pants. Shoots the Batjet out of the sky. The Batjet is there for maybe 40 seconds of screen time. That silhouette over the moon was like a nice little moment, but it's aesthetically interesting, but it makes...
It's such a throwaway scene. If we didn't have that scene, really nothing would have changed.
It was a scene to build and sell a toy. And even at the age of 13, I clocked it and resented it. I'm like, seriously, fuck that. You guys are being ridiculous here.
Oh my god. I didn't think about the merchandising or marketing side of it. I do just remember, like, being a kid being like, that's a big waste of money.
Yeah.
You know, like that. I mean, and does he need a bat license? Pilot license for that? Like, I remember being a kid, like, it was just, he had that level to deal with the petty criminals he was punching in the face at night, and then you just happen to have this massive over-the-top villain who's just levels everything up so much. He was literally just stopping petty theft, but he had this plane.
Yeah.
This bat plane for just in case. Like that was, I remember thinking that was a bit much.
I did like Michael Keaton a lot in the movie, but maybe more as Bruce Wayne than as Batman.
That's one thing that I did like about this as well, is he actually considered the Bruce Wayne character, but it's not Bruce Wayne. That's Batman as he normally is.
His goofy awkwardness, especially when he's trying to romance Kim Basinger's character. I mean, it's very distinctly a Michael Keaton character, but it's the kind of vibe, like, it made me think of, like, Sam Rockwell, or, like, that sort of, like, loose, energetic, but you're not sure if it's coming from a good or bad place.
It's a chaotic energy.
Yeah,
that's for sure.
And so you get, A, why she'd be attracted to him, but B, why she'd be a little bit, hands up a little bit, let's be careful, let's proceed with caution here.
They weren't afraid to also show how out of touch Bruce is.
Yeah.
Like when Knox is like, give me a grant. And and give Knox a grant. Like, just fucking so clueless that this could change his life. You know, like, to get a grant for writing for, and you didn't even ask for what, like, just, if you've ever applied for a grant, you know that they're like, and is this $5 going to toilet paper? Like, we need to know, we need it spelled out, and just, give him a grant, and just, because that's what he knew as a very privileged individual, and then you see him like, I had everything given to me on a platter, and women probably threw himself, like, they're, in the comics, that's specifically what happens, right? That's why he dates the shallow and stuff. Because they're dumb enough to fool. And he knows they're only after his money. So he uses that as part of his cover. But in this, like, he had no idea how to deal with a woman.
No. Especially when he's trying to quote-unquote take her seriously. And he's super powerful when he's in the suit. And he's kind of a dolt when he's Bruce Wayne in a likable kind of appealing way. I thought that was interesting. Once the suit's on, he's very powerful, and apparently he was really frustrated because the suit didn't give him a lot of flexibility. He had a hard time turning his head.
Neck.
Yeah,
he couldn't hear.
Yeah,
he said he was getting claustrophobia.
Yeah,
because of that.
And to work with all that against it might be part of the stoicism of the Batman performance, but
I could see him really getting in his head. You can't, you can't hear what's going on. You only got your brain.
But I mean, I'm like everyone else. I think I was a little bit skeptical, even though I loved Beetlejuice as a kid. I was like, is Michael Keaton Batman? Mm-hmm. And halfway through the movie, I stopped even wondering about it. It was just like, this is fine. Batman is one of a handful of movies when I watched in the theater. I knew as I was watching it, this is a classic motion picture. I had the same feeling when I went to see The Matrix. We were about halfway through The Matrix, and I was like, this is a movie classic. This is me sitting in the theater watching a sci-fi classic.
I don't know if I knew that they were like immediate classics or anything, but there were definitely ones that stuck out as just kind of building a core part of my DNA. Like,
I think as far as superhero movies go, the 89 Batman could probably be called a classic.
I think I've had a Batman logoed shirt.
Your whole life?
My whole life. Okay, I can't say my whole life because I was like 10 when this came out.
I had the graphic novel adaptation of the movie. I had the soundtrack, even though I wasn't a Prince fan.
I had the soundtrack in 3 different sort of... I had cassette tape, disc, and then I downloaded most of Danny Elfman music, actually. The MP3s, and I just had my own mixes of it.
I had a cassette tape, and it was like 80% Prince, 20% Score, and it was not good. But
I think actually, even when I did like do the MP3 sort of version of my collection, it was mostly Danny Elfman, and I think I had exactly one Prince song from this on the collection. Because,
the Bat Dance had to stay.
I mean, it's
it's the Bat Dance,
not just a bat dance, it's a bat life choice. So it was I mean, I have my own issues with Prince and stuff like that, but he is a musical genius. I thought going through the art museum with his music was just bringing out that extra notch, that fourth dimension of I'm putting on a show. Like, that's just Joker's vibe.
Yeah,
I think Jack Nicholson really nailed that. The fact that he would just go in a museum and fucking poison everyone.
Yeah,
I remember being a kid and being like, holy shit,
that's hardcore.
That's insane. And he sees that one piece of artwork. He's like, no.
Leave that one.
Leave that one. And they're destroying other priceless arts of work. But, this spoke to me. So, like, it's just, you could see there was some reason to his madness, but a lot of madness to his reasons.
And it's still a cartoon movie. I think about kids who grew up with the Nolan one. I know a lot of people who would consider, like, The Dark Knight, Christopher Nolan's middle chapter, as like a desert island movie for them. It's never been that for me. But I honestly think if I was like only allowed to watch one Batman movie for the rest of my life, it would be tough between this and Returns, but it would probably be one of the Burton ones.
For the newer sort of iterations, all I can think of while watching those are, this could possibly just not be Batman. This could be a SWAT team member that went crazy.
It would almost arguably be better if he wasn't dressed as a bat.
Yeah, like, and that's it. And so for me, it was honoring the past. It understood that a lot of people are just going to think it's campy. And so it had those little moments. But throughout it had a really good story. There were absolutely times where I was like, as she learns that as a kid he saw his parents die, like, she was like heartbroken for him.
Yeah.
And so I actually cared about what happened to the characters. I was actually invested. Will they, won't they? And then kind of the newer ones, it's just done more in the style of he could or couldn't be Batman.
That's understand optional. Though, like, I was 13 when I saw this movie. Yeah. If I was 13 when I saw The Dark Knight, it would have blown my fucking mind, right? Like, if it was my first Batman movie, I understand that, but I don't know. I think I said earlier, is best able at having its cake and eating it too. It still has stakes, it's still like an energetic action movie, but it's also still a fun comic book movie.
It's also paced really well. I found there was really no moments that were lagging, or that I was waiting for something. Like, even the moments in his cave were poignant. And I just thought that was really kind of nice to have little moments that rest. And I find sort of what you were talking about with Sleepy Hollow and like the very obviously cheesy bird. That's because that's letting its moment be its own moment.
Yeah.
And it, for me, more than anything, is part of what helps the story go forward. Because you do need breaks after big explosions, big dramatic reveals.
It is a Tim Burton joint, too. You can feel his presence in the movie. It's not just a Batman movie. This is Tim Burton's Batman. The climactic moment, spoilers, kids, the Joker doesn't make it to the end credits.
Does he?
When the Joker falls from the building, they cut to an animation of the Joker falling. And again, I don't think anyone other than Tim Burton would have made that choice. I love that choice. It's so absurd and it would seem wrong, but it's somehow perfect.
It reminded me, actually, on this rewatch of Who Framed Roger Rabbit, that literally blended in cartoon with the live action, and seeing that with the little spotlight, but I went to get that shot. That's kind of the only way you would have, like, that's the only way you really could have done it.
In 89. And the amount of effort that would have gone into it must have been crazy. But I love it. I love it.
I kind of, like, again, I'm an old animation sort of nerd, and
we're old nerds.
Love
Let's
it.
just be open about that.
And it was just like, I don't know, it felt like a nice head nod. A little we know our roots. In, like, the cheesiest and cutest way. While at the climax of the movie, you know? Like, you're right. There's so many other ways that he could have attempted to do it.
But he did
miniatures
it the Tim Burton
and all this other. But he's just like, you know what? I bet old Greg Kerwacki, who was an animator in 1950, I wonder what he's doing. He probably needs a job again, and let's bring him in and get him to do 30 seconds of work.
And that's what the man brings up. That was 6 Tim Burton movies reviewed, and we're going to get to the rank, but because I didn't do a good job covering at the beginning, we had a fantastic welcome mystery guest to help out with the introduction, the review of Edward Scissorhands, and a review of Batman. Big love to this mystery person. We have Chris Tomich from Australia, once again helping me out with the reviews of Frankenweenie and Sleepy Hollow. We have Lee Beckman and Maya Beckman, who helped me out with that memorable review of Alice in Wonderland 2010, and a brand spanking new guest to rank and review, Mr. Sean Lawrence, helped me to review Big Fish, and I wanted to take an extra beat to thank everybody who helped this episode. Some of these recordings were done well over a year ago, some of these recordings were done just a few days ago, so it's been a long road to get to the Tim Burton episode, and damn it, we did it. But how would you rank these movies? Or more importantly, how would I, your host and random Canadian Larry Parsons, rank these movies? Well, I'm going to tell you, and it's going to be controversial, and you can send your feedback to ranknreview@gmail.com. That's ranknreview@gmail.com. Anyway, in 6th place, probably not too surprisingly for me, is Alice in Wonderland, the 2010 version. It's pretty at times, it's kind of goofy and crazy at times, but it just doesn't really add up to too much of a such, or such of a much. But hey, it made lots and lots of money. In 5th place, and some Burton fans are going to not like this one, I'm giving it to Edward Scissorhands. It's sweet, it's stylish, but it's kind of saccharine at the same time. It's a specific meal for a specific person who wants that kind of feed. In 4th place, I'm giving it to the bizarre Frankenweenie, a kids movie that's too weird and dark for kids and too goofy and strange for most adults. I liked it though. Overperforming in 3rd place, we're going to give it to Sleepy Hollow. It is in no way subtle, but it is entertaining. It will hold your attention 100%. In 2nd place, we're going to give it to Big Fish. It also maybe leans a little bit into the Disney romantic, so sweet it hurts your teeth neighborhood, but its heart is so securely in the right place. The father-son relationship did play some chords for me, I can't lie. It's full of heart and imagination. Impossible to hate Big Fish. But in 1st place, I'm giving it to Batman 1989 because I've loved it since 1989 and I'm going to continue to love it. It's a bumpy but very fun ride, and I'm just too attached to it from my youth to put it anywhere but 1st place. Who wants to fight me? What a mess of a mix of a heck of a strange, not quite film club rank and review director tribute episode. Man, would I like to hear feedback on this. What do you guys think of Tim Burton? Was I too light on him? Was I too hard on him? Does he deserve the bad rap that he increasingly gets? Or, anybody who's been making this many movies for this long, there's going to be an arc to follow. Please let me know and send your feedback to ranknreview@gmail.com. That's ranknreview@gmail.com. Once again, the website is ranknreview.ca because I'm up here in the middle of the Great Plains of Canada. And I would also appreciate you helping out my YouTube presence because, you know, it's a very lonely place right now. We are closing in on the end of the season of Rank and Review. We have another Film Club episode coming up, and then after that, a very special celebration and season finale featuring the discussion of the Coen brothers. That's what you got to look forward to now that this episode is in the rearview mirror. Thank you for your ears. Big love from your host and random Canadian, Larry Parsons. Oh wait, I forgot something, didn't I? There's this big gap in between the episodes, and you're like, but I need more from my ears, Larry. You're right, and I'm wrong. Check out the Shelf Shedding Movie Show hosted by Jason Dubray. Not only does he review and rank movies very well, but he loses a movie from his collection. So it's like Rank and Review, but it's got way more at stake. So, you know, check out the Shelf Shedding Movie Show, and that might fill the hole in your heart left by the gap between Rank and Review episodes. Every other Wednesday, boys. Every other Wednesday, girls. We'll see you soon.